Welcome to this edition of This Is Glendale. I'm Joe Dubinsky.
And I'm Tyler Jeffries.
So Tyler, what are you going to be doing this month?
Well, Joe, this month I'm going to be sitting down with Dr. Will Sawyer. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the Harry Whiting Brown Community Center. We're talking about the chapel that was moved here. We're also going to discuss a few of the upcoming events for the summer, as well as talking about a fundraiser that's going to take place in May. How about you, Joe?
I'm going to be going down to the wastewater treatment plant to interview Kevin Bell, our utility superintendent, to follow that water molecule in the last step of the process.
Well, I'm excited to see the end of the series, Joe.
Well, it'll be interesting. So, we hope you enjoy this edition of This Is Glendale.
Hi, I'm Tyler Jeffries, here with This Is Glendale. I'm sitting here with Dr. Will Sawyer to tell us a little bit about the Harry Whiting Brown Community Center. We're going to talk a little bit about the history and some upcoming events that are going to happen this summer. Dr. Will, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Tyler. This is wonderful. I'm glad to be here. Thank you. So I want to share something with the village. The Harry Whiting Brown Community Center is a gem of the village, and it was developed and created by Harry Whiting Brown, an Eagle Scout, who was a Procter & Gamble executive in 1929. He had the foresight to purchase this property that would benefit the Scouts, the people of the village, the sanctuary for birds, the school nurse, as well as a teacher at Glendale Elementary. And ever since then, it's been empowered by a board of trustees who are volunteers to maintain this diamond in the rough, if you would, for the people who want to enjoy and gather here. There's been some very difficult times in the past, and there's some key people who were presidents, Tom Muir back in the 60s and 70s, and then Stu Hallbauer back in the 80s and 90s. And then, interestingly enough, then in 1994, Stu Hallbauer had asked me to join the board, and he was at an auction up at St. Edmund's Chapel in Campsite, which is a retreat, which is where we are today. And he said to me, he said, Will, they're auctioning off the boys' chapel that the boys' orphanage had created back in the early 1920s. We can't let this historic structure leave the village. And I said, Stu, you're the president. And he said, yeah, but what do you think? And I said, let's do it. This is history. Glendale is a historic village. We need to maintain the history. And another reason for that is the St. Edmund's Retreat was the first site of the Children's International Summer Village. Started in 1951 by Doris Twitchell Allen, who is a Glendale resident, and she is a psychologist at the University of Cincinnati. The Children's International Summer Village brings children from all over the world together to learn how to get along. At a time, we could certainly use that now when we had a 50-year celebration 20 years ago here. And during that time, we have bricks. Everybody, you need to come down and look for your handprint around the parking lot, bricks that Jack Cook, who was the scoutmaster then, had orchestrated very effectively. And we have hands from all over the world joining together with the sculpture outside, which we want you to visit. So please come down.
So you say you've been here since 1994, is that right?
So, yes, yeah, off and on. I did take a time out from the board. We all get a little tired. So we're looking for the youth to come and get involved. We need the young to get involved because the kids are now coming back to the village.
So tell me a little bit about what you've seen change here at the Harry Whiting Brown Center in that's 20, almost 30 years, right? 28 years.
Yeah.
What's the same and what's different? That's kind of the story of Glendale. A lot the same and a lot different.
It is. You're right. So what's happened is, back in the 90s, we had kids after-school programs that were going on, language, karate, fencing, art, and then it's a gathering place. We had all kinds of events. We had Derby Day parties and places and concerts on the green. Paul Breinbach started it back then. It's really grown to be a tremendous event during the summers here. And what we've now seen is a resurgence of young. There's a lot of young kids in the village, and we want all of you who have something to teach to come down. You can teach a program at the community house. It doesn't cost anything. It's for the people. If you have something to teach, yoga, salsa dancing, karate, fencing, there's Spanish lessons that have started. We want to have everybody involved. We need some art. And we used to have camps in the summer.
So I think there's a lot of misconceptions about HWB who it belongs to, who pays for it. A lot of people don't understand that HWB is volunteer-driven, donation-driven, right?
Correct.
Not part of the village per se.
Correct.
Can you explain how that kind of works out, like the interaction between the village government and HWB? Are they the same? Are they
They're
different?
completely separate. They're totally separate entities, and this is what the purpose that Harry Whiting Brown set up. He's wanted the people to have a place that was not government directed and managed. So that's where he wanted to empower a board of trustees to manage the site. Now, it's a struggle, I will say. We do make a little bit of income on a couple of apartments we rent, but really it's donations. And what we really want you all, this is your community center. This is for you to support. Candidly, we run short about $10,000 every year easily, and that's why we're trying to promote more concerts and other events and activities and fundraisers that will help defray that so we can ensure the long-term success that Harry Whiting Brown set up.
So I think the key takeaway here for the folks in Glendale watching is, you know, if as you're at the end of the year putting together your donations and things like that, think about HWB, because this is a community center that isn't funded by the government. It's strictly driven by, you know, your all's donations. So as you're doing donations, think about HWB.
Yeah.
So speaking of fundraisers,
Yeah.
May 15th, there's a fundraiser at Third Eye Brewery,
Third
correct?
Eye Brewery, yes, correct. So what we would love is everybody, there's a benefit for HWB. Some of the proceeds will benefit our organization. There are other fundraisers that go on through the year, but what we'd really love for you all to get started with the Third Eye. Please look at the website. There's lots of activities. In fact, and the programs do generate some income, and then Beth Ecker is our program director. I want you to call her and say, I have a program that we could offer. And the concerts, in fact, during the concerts, people sponsor concerts. So we might need some more sponsors. If you would, that would be wonderful to support this wonderful event for those who have showed up to these as well.
Great. So we'll talk about those concerts, but let me clear up this Sunday, May 15th at Third Eye is the date, right? And I believe it's from 11 to 7 p.m. Go there, have a beer or 5. I won't tell. Just don't drive home after 5. But have a few beers. Part of that money is going to go directly to HWB to help fund some of these programs. So we talked about concerts, Will.
Yeah.
So concerts every Saturday, June and July, right? 6 to 9 p.m.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think there's going to be a graphic that's going to show all the concerts, who's coming. They're all great.
Right.
Every one
Yeah.
we've been to is
Yeah.
great.
Tremendous, excuse me, they've done Bob Fleury and Steve Whistlbacher have done an incredible job of getting tremendous bands that everybody wants to show up. The green is packed.
How much does it cost?
It's free.
Can you bring your own food?
You can bring your own food. In fact, I'll tell you, June 18th, we're going to try to have a block party. Dan Love wants to do a block party. Everybody identify. Meet your neighbors, because there are many new people, new families who've moved to the village in the last 2 years during the COVID cover. So we want to come out of the closet and meet your neighbors down here for a block party.
So, number 1, it's free. Number 2, bring your own food.
Right?
Number 3, if you brought a bottle of wine, I don't think anybody's going to say anything, right?
Right? No.
So it's really a cool event. My family's enjoyed several of them throughout the years. We do appreciate HWB putting this on. And again, it's a totally free event, so it'd be great to see some more
Yeah.
people.
And get to know your neighbors and get to meet other folks who are interested. It's a gathering place. Again, just to reiterate, this is a gathering place for you all and your family and everybody, multi-generations. That's the other piece about this organization. We want to bring multiple generations together. This is how you have a successful community.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm happy to talk to HWB and learn a little bit more about this. And I think one thing I would like to talk about that we didn't talk about.
There's one more event that we forgot.
Remind
The
me.
house tour.
House tour.
During Christmas time, house tour, they dress up the houses. It's an incredible event. It's been a tremendous fundraiser, successful. Every other year we've done it. COVID, we took time out. but come see the historic homes in Glendale. You get a chance to take a peek.
And that's another really cool event that I've personally done. Just getting to see some of these homes you drive past every day. You're like, oh, I wonder what that place is like.
Right.
You get a chance to go in and see it decorated. It's a really cool event, so I'm glad that's coming back. I think the last one was maybe 2019. Is that right?
Maybe
18?
18. I think it was 18. And
2000,
so,
yeah.
So we really need, again, that's part of our fundraising opportunity, which we had to put on hold. And so this year we want to have a large turnout, and there's some great houses that are being signed up right now. So
Great,
pay
great.
attention.
So, Glendale, come to the home tour. Come drink some beer on Sunday, May 15th from 11 to 7.
Right.
And Saturdays, June, July from 6 to 9.
Right.
Come to the concerts. Come say hi to Dr. Will if you see him.
Yes.
And
right.
we hope to see everybody out there.
We hope to. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Tom.
Thanks,
So
Will.
come on down.
Thank you.
For This Is Glendale, and in previous episodes, we followed the water molecule from the aquifer that rests underneath most of southwestern Ohio, through the water treatment plant, into your home, and back out again through the sewer. And here we're at the last step of the process. We're at the wastewater treatment plant, and I have with me here today Jeremy Fike and Marcus Couch, who run the plant here. So, can you explain what happens here at this plant?
So when you flush water in your house, bathroom, sink, any place that you have water, it goes out of your house into your lateral, down the sewer main, comes into the plant, and then there's an influent channel that all the water from the village that channels together goes through 50-inch pipe into our influent bar screen, which takes out anything that you flush, anything that goes down your toilet, sink, anything. So paper towels, diapers, applicators,
Yeah, so
anything that people flush down their toilet goes into
Lines
the
up
bar
there.
screen.
So I understand that. So I know that the residents of the village are interested in saving the money in the village. And so what are the kinds of things that they shouldn't be putting down their toilet?
Well, I think the main problem is the flushable wipes, because if you read the labels on those, they say, they're degradable and they'll break down. They don't break down. When they get here, they are full and they cause massive problems with our pumps.
So you're talking about baby wipes?
Baby wipes, any type of wipes for countertops, anything that says flushable, they're not flushable.
Okay.
We actually had P&G out here, and they did tests on our wastewater with the wipes, and they never broke down.
They never break down. So how often do you have to clean those screens?
Well, every day we have a bar screen that runs constantly. It's all day long, probably. It just keeps scraping it has like a fine filtered screen that the water goes through and it gets all that stuff out. But the problem is the pumps at the beginning that lift it from our EQ, all that stuff just goes down there and it gets wrapped up in the pumps and it clogs them up, and we have to pull them, clean them out, drop them back down, and sometimes it burns the motor up, and you're talking $8,500 pumps or more.
Yes.
Depends on,
Wow.
how much gets in it.
So what I'm hearing is that really the only thing you should put down there is toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
That's it.
That's it.
And everything else should go in the trash, because
Yes.
that causes you a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Okay.
Female products are another thing that get flushed all the time, and they're just as bad. They're not biodegradable, and they get stuck in the pumps too.
How about diapers?
Diapers, they just go and shred, and you'd be surprised that a towels like that balled up
Yeah.
can stop a 22 10 horsepower pump right now.
Wow.
We get people's clothing of all kinds of varieties. We get kids' toys.
Yeah.
Anything and everything that they think is going for a ride down that toilet comes to our plant. So,
Interesting. All right, so now the sewage passes through the screens, and what happens?
It goes out to a chamber, our biofos chamber, that treats it with activated sludge. So each chamber's got activated sludge, which are microorganisms that take care of a different process, eat the microorganisms, break it down from more like, bad bacteria to, where we can get it to a thicker solid and separate it from the water.
How many steps does it go through? How many times does it go through? Because I know the water plant goes through several cycles through
So
the...
you have the influent channel, chamber, bar screen, goes to the biofos chambers, and it has a VLR,
VLR is...
vertical loop reactors, which spin it, keep it mixing. You got to keep those. You got to give air. The bugs need air.
Right.
So we regulate the air based on winter and summertime. It needs more in the summer, less in the winter, because they're not as active. So it mixes that sludge and mixes the bugs. kills all the incoming influent water and solids. Then it goes to a clarifier, which the solids are heavy and they separate. So the solids settle down and the clear water comes to the top, and that goes out to our effluent, to our
Okay, so imagine you have to make sure that you have the right amount of bugs in the
Yes.
in the system. So how do you test for that?
What we do is we waste. So you don't want too many bugs. You don't want too little bugs. So we have to keep regulated on how many bugs we waste. It's called wasting your sludge. We have digesters out there that store the solids, and once a year we press it and get rid of it. So we keep an eye on that, because if you get too much, they can spill over. But we keep an eye on it, and that never happens.
So how often do you measure to see how many bugs you got in the system?
Probably once a month.
Once a month.
We've done it for so long that, we do it's called a jar test, settleometer. You fill it up, and you'll see the separation of the water and sludge.
Yeah.
And you can tell by that.
Okay, so the bugs eat most of the stuff. You get solids settled down to the bottom of the tanks. You get rid of that like once a year. What do you get rid of that?
We have a company come in and they press it.
Okay.
There's it's called a belt press.
Yeah.
So the way it works is they add polymer, and it's a pretty cool process, and it was supposed to happen right now, but the belt presses the sludge and separates the water from the sludge and turns it to almost like a wet sand.
Okay.
Then it goes into a dumpster, and then we haul it to Rumpke dump. So once a year it's like 7 dumpsters, which is quite a bit when you think about it, because, but.
So now before you release the water back into the environment, I assume you have to test it.
Well, we actually send our samples out to be tested.
Okay.
But we have a company called Massa that tests our samples. We can do a few things here as far as to kind of monitor where we're kind of at. They're not official tests, but yeah, we have ways of looking at where we're at as far as our microbiological process. But as far as what we actually are sending to the creek, that is sent out. So that's tested usually twice a week. We do monthly samples, we do quarterly samples, we do all that stuff. But twice a week, we are sending samples out that is testing for CVOD, which is the oxygen demand, suspended solids, our phosphorus, our nitrogen ammonia, and our nitrates. So that is sent out twice a week.
Okay. And so you have a holding tank where you keep this water that's been treated before you release it.
It's all day long. Water's coming in and water's going out all day long.
And where does it go? Where does the water go?
It goes out to Mill Creek.
It goes out to the Mill Creek. But it's all tested, it's all clean.
That water that comes out of our plant is better than the creek water in Mill Creek. I would probably drink the water going out of our plant before I drink Mill Creek water.
I'm not going to challenge you.
Yeah, I'm not going to drink either one of them. But it's tested. We test the creek too. We actually have to test the water in Mill Creek before our water mixes with it, and then after our water mixes with it, we have to test both.
To make sure there's not a significant change.
Well, just to see how our water's mixing with it. So you have a sample before and then after, and usually our numbers are better than what the water is coming down. And they're still good. We've never had like a creek violation. We wouldn't. There's no numbers for that, but it's tested. We test it once a month.
Wow. Okay, so anything else I'm missing? That sounds like it starts in the aquifer and ends in the aquifer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sort of.
Yeah, pretty much.
So here's a question. Do you know how much water that you take in and how much water goes out?
Yep.
You do? Okay, so...
Which is pretty much the same. We on a good sunny day when it is not raining, this plant's about 250,000 to 350,000 a day. Just, nice sunny
250,000 gallons.
Yeah. On a rainy day, we can see up to 3 million gallons a day.
Okay, that's right, because in the sewers are also the drain sewers in the road feed into that too, right?
And houses that have some pumps or gutters, which most of them I think are disconnected, but yards that, still have tiles that are tied in, it's...
So when people do fall cleanup and they rake their leaves, and I didn't know this until recently, you're really not supposed to put them in the street. You're supposed to put the leaves in the parkway area so they don't get into the storm drains. Is that?
We're not. We don't really take care of the storms. It's more the street department. Okay. We're strictly the sewer, main, sanitary, and the water.
So the sewer drains go to something.
Yeah, they're supposed to. They have to. That was, I think, back in quite a few years ago that EPA told you got to separate your storm from your sewer, just because it's killing your biological life. So much water, it's hard.
That's always good practice, though. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
to keep them out of the drain.
So but what I was getting at though is that you pump water out of the aquifer, so you know how much you're pumping out of the ground. How much are you putting back? How much gets actually used?
I'd say we pump, 300, we average about 300 a day, and then here, like 250, so I'd say about 50,000.
50,000 gallons.
People love to water, remember we talked about
Yeah.
people love to water their yards in
Yes.
town, and so it's probably about 50,000 gallons a day that get watered on the yards that don't go back to the
Or consumed.
consumed out in a different way.
Different ways. Okay. Jeremy, Marcus, thank you very much. That's very informative. And I'm Joe Dubinsky, and this is Glendale.
Ever heard of Toad's Deli, Kelly's Grocery, or the Bracker House Inn? They will be among dozens of businesses featured in the next Glendale Historic Preservation exhibit. Merchants of Glendale will be staged in September in the museum at the Historic Depot on the Village Square. This exhibit will show how the face of commerce in Glendale has changed over the past 167 years. Right now, the exhibit committee is looking for artifacts to help tell the stories of all shops and businesses, but especially the earliest. If you have any memorabilia from Glendale businesses that you could share with the museum for this exhibit, please contact the committee at 513-771-8722 or ghp@fuse.net. Again, that's 513-771-8722 or ghp@fuse.net. You can also stop by the depot any Thursday or Saturday from 11 to 3 to talk to one of the volunteers. We hope you enjoyed this edition of This is Glendale. I'm Tyler Jeffries.
And I'm Joe Dubinsky. See you next time on
This is Glendale.